Hey, let's see here. Let's switch this around. Okay. Well, you know, bumpy starts mean that it's a lot like the Wright Brothers. Things start off a little strangely. Hope everybody's doing okay. Pardon me, sir. I've got a knock from the UPS man. Everything's different these days. It's 3 o'clock. Anybody out there? Can I get a comment? Can I get a hello? Well, we're going to proceed then, as we do. Okay. So today, I want to ask you a question. It's a simple one. What do Harry Truman, John Adams, George Washington, Teddy Roosevelt, Orville and Wilbur Wright, and many people around them have in common? Besides being giants of American history, they are some of the most interesting topics of the books, I should say, by historian David McCullough. David McCullough is really, truly something of a national treasure. He's won 2 Pulitzer Prizes for his biography on Harry Truman and his story of John Adams. Well, it seems like we're having some signal problems, but I think it may have. I joke around that the internet is tired. How about if I try to move a little closer? So, anyway, I'm gonna keep going and talk to you a little bit about a book by David McCullough about the Wright brothers. As I mentioned a couple weeks ago when I was talking about Susan Orlean's The Library Book, we are going through the process of vetting books, deciding what we want to choose for next February's St. John's Reads title. As some of you may know, every February we pick a book and we create programming, book talks, all sorts of special events, food programs, very popular food programs called Books and Bites, all centered on the topics that we find in our stories, novels, and nonfiction that we read for St. John's Reads. So a couple weeks ago, one of the books we're considering, Susan Orlean's The Library Book. Great book, great story, a love letter to the public library, something that I really care about and very close to. And another book on our list is this title, The Wright Brothers by David McCullough. And this book came out in 2015 and tells the story very significant. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you, Amy. That's what we need, folks. We need a little feedback to help us along. Without the people out there listening and watching, it doesn't matter what we're doing. Anyway, so, we often think of Kitty Hawk, the Wright Brothers, 1903. That's something that we learn in history class. It's something we memorize. It's usually on a test from ages, kindergarten up. But really, the story of the Wright brothers started a long time before, and it's really, we talk about the development and this historic landmark and point in time that culminated in the first flight, it's really the story of the Wright family. And that's what I love about David McCullough books, because you've heard the old saying, behind every great man is a great woman. Well, everybody is part of this story, and many great giants who are big, broad, forward thinkers and who are person's vision. And so Orville and Wilbur Wright are often described as not very emotional or passionate men who were part of a family of 5 children, and they were both the sons of 19th century. And by profession, Orville and Wilbur Wright were bicycle makers and salesmen. And they worked long and hard and repeatedly to develop this other to their families, especially to their youngest sister, Catherine Wright. And Catherine Wright is a big figure in this book because she's often considered the glue of the Wright family. So one of the things that I really like about David McCullough Well, it does seem to be a challenge that we're having with the feed, so hopefully you stay with me, and we'll get to the end, because this is a book that I had such a good time reading, because honestly, my mind, when I hear the Wright Brothers, I do think of Kitty Hawk, 1903, a really windy, mosquito-ridden time in the Carolinas. But this tells the story of how they got there, and then how they struggled to convince the U.S. government to take them on in development. It was really a surprise to me and to a lot of readers that the Wright brothers enjoyed more celebrity and support and encouragement in France than they did at first here in the U.S. And of course, there was a culture of wealthy playboys, for lack of a better word, who also like to entertain themselves in high-risk inventions. So of course, they saw the airplane and the Wright brothers' efforts as just another part of their ilk that would take them along with their amusements. And, it's those daredevils and their flying machines, but they had the money and they had the passion. Really well, very spectacularly, and very successful. And at the end of that week, there was an airplane accident that killed one of the pilots and severely injured Orville Wright. And it's during this episode that you really get to know the sister, Catherine Wright, and how she and her brother Orville were quite close. And even in his writings, he said that had it not been for the care of his sister, he might have died. And she becomes a big figure and keeping the Wright brothers focused on their task. And then when they started to enjoy some success and some celebrity, she was the one that made them stay on task, made them stay focused, made them remember the mission, the invention, the effort that they were trying to make and promote. And she was quite close to her brothers. And in later years, when she reacquainted with a school friend who she eventually married, her one brother, Orville, was so upset with her that he refused to speak to her until she fell ill of pneumonia many years later. And they reunited at her deathbed, and he was present. But this family is full of very stormy, interesting characters who also had great willpower and focus that brought them through to the culmination of their work. One of the things that I found really surprising is that due to the very brief nature of First Flight, the Dayton, Ohio newspaper, the Wright family was from Dayton, Ohio, they refused to write any stories about this invention because they did not find it of interest or worthy of their journalistic endeavors. Another thing that I found surprising about the story is that they probably spent more time in the pursuit of flight than they actually spent flying. And this is what happens sometimes when we have these big ideas and these endeavors, and it's the people who stick with it. Like that old saying goes, a big part of success is showing up. And once again, I can't say enough about why I think any book by David McCullough is awesome. We do have David McCullough's Wright Brothers on overdrive, and we also have 1776, which is a story that, kind of seems important to us these days. This is on Hoopla, but both of these books can be gotten through our online resources. Just go to our website, SJCPLS.org. You can still get a digital library card, and, someday in the not too far off future, you'll be able to get something like a hard copy in print, that lovely smell called the book. So folks, I'm just going to wrap this up. It's been brief. David McCullough's The Wright Brothers is worth your time, and it's definitely in my category of top choices for St. John's Reads coming out next February, along with the library book. Of course, I have a tendency to always read nonfiction, so some people might choose something differently. But, here we are, still in this time of uncertainty and trying to figure out what the new normal is and how we're going to find our ways into a more positive experience. And I keep repeating to myself, we're going to make the best of it, and we just got to keep our heads about us. We got to stay focused, and that's a word that definitely comes up a lot in the story of the Wright brothers and the Wright family. So I'd like to read a little bit from the book before I say good day. The course of the flight, in Orville's words, was extremely erratic. The flyer rose, dipped down, rose again, bounced and dipped again like a bunking bronco when one wing actually struck the sand. The distance flown had been 120 feet, less than half the length of a football field. The total airborne time was approximately 12 seconds. 12 seconds. And just to give you another number or two and the summation of it, the first flight of 12 seconds was 120 feet. They took several more flights that day. One flight, 175 feet. The second flight, 200 feet. And the final flight, which lasted 59 seconds, 852 feet. It had taken 4 years. They had endured violent storms, accidents, one disappointment after another, public indifference and ridicule, and clouds of demon mosquitoes. To get to and from their remote sand dune testing ground, they had made 5 round trips from Dayton, Ohio, counting Orville's return home to see about a stronger propeller shaft. They rode a total of 7,000 miles by train, all to fly a little more than a half a mile. No matter, they had done it. And we will do it. And we will be great, and we will see you again at your library. Thank you so much, everyone.